Hello, my name's Lily Adams, and welcome to my presentation on sustainable business practices at Newton Investment Management. Firstly, I'm going to do a quick introduction into Newton Investment Management. So, Newton is a global investment management firm founded in 1978 and owned by BNY Mellon, whose purpose is to improve people's lives through active, thematic, and engaged investment, which strives to deliver attractive outcomes to clients and helps foster a healthy and vibrant world for all. Newton has offices in London, New York, Boston, and San Francisco, with over 500 employees across these regions. It serves institutional clients such as pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, central banks, charities, and insurance firms. And across these clients, it currently holds £88 billion worth of assets under management. Newton focuses on delivering outcomes for clients across active equities, income, absolute return, and multi-asset solutions. Along with this, there is a range of investment options offered that include thematic and sustainable capabilities across the strategies. Newton has a research advantage with an investment team of 145 research analysts and portfolio managers who work together across regions and sectors to ensure the investment process takes the widest possible perspective. This approach leads to better investment decisions and ultimately economic prosperity. Economic prosperity is actually achieved through having a highly active, innovative, engaged, and investment-led approach, which enables Newton to drive positive change and continued engagement with companies and more broadly with the development of best practices, standards, and regulations. At the core of Newton is responsible investment, which has been doing since 1998. It has a responsibility to fully understand the assets that it's investing in, and therefore, in addition to financial measures, Newton does evaluate factors such as environmental impacts, social standards, and the effectiveness of the people in charge of the issuer. Newton believes that companies that are well governed and can mitigate and manage the environmental and social factors that are affecting their actual value are likely to be better managed businesses and therefore likely to have much better outcomes for their clients. In terms of the business challenges in relation to sustainability that are actually impacting Newton, the main one is actually something that was proposed at the Paris Climate Agreement in 2015 at COP21, where there was a goal proposed to reach net zero 2050. In order to do this, we would have to keep global warming to no higher than 1.5 degrees, which would enable everyone to reduce emissions by 45% by 2030 and reduce emissions to reach net zero by 2050. However, at the moment, the world is actually not on track to reach net zero by 2050, so more needs to be done. A recent study by the United Nations found that current plans would actually lead to a sizable increase of almost 11% in global greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 compared to 2010 levels. This agreement was signed by the United Kingdom, and therefore investment managers in the United Kingdom have a crucial role to play in the transition. Research by Stern and Valero 2021 found that investments in clean innovation and its diffusion are key to saving the world from a climate crisis. So that's obviously the global challenges that are impacting the world as a whole, but Newton's role in this presents specific challenges for the business. So the first one being that they need to select a net zero investing methodology. So within the investment management industry, there's not really a single net zero investing methodology. There's several approaches that have been developed by different groups, which makes it confusing for Newton. But climate change does pose a serious threat to Newton's clients and the investments that they particularly have with climate-related risks. So therefore, it's important to select the right methodology. There is also the challenge of avoiding pervasive incentives. So there's a challenge of not making decisions which are just aimed at meeting the targets. So just completely removing all cash from high emitters is a challenge. So how do you balance what you invest your money in to help the world? Newton also has a challenge of dealing with a lot of data gaps. So a lot of companies have quite patchy data when it comes to this kind of stuff. Even simple metrics such as scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions don't have a universal standard across sectors. So it makes it quite hard for Newton to compare what's the best company to invest in. Newton also needs to account for solution providers. So a lot of companies are actually involved in the manufacture of emission-saving technologies, which actually do usually have a much higher carbon footprint than other sectors. But if you just look at these direct emissions, it doesn't really capture the emission savings they create by their products. So Nuton needs to take that into account too. Nuton also needs to expand all asset classes by 2050, which is going to be particularly hard for sovereign debt and private equity. And additionally, Nuton needs to focus on reducing its own scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions, rather than just all like as a bonus to helping their clients need to reduce their own emissions, which is a challenge. The next challenge for Nuton is greenwashing, which is the misleading of unsubstantiated claims about environmental performance made by firms about their products and activity. InfluenceMap, a London-based climate think tank, actually released a study showing that 723 equity funds who managed more than $330 billion in total net assets used ESG claims in their climate-related keywords in their marketing. However, a recent report by The Economist actually found that some of the most largest ESG funds in the world are actually stuffed full of polluters and sin stocks. Now, what challenges does this prevent for Nuton? Firstly, there isn't a single industry standard guiding the quality and quantity of disclosure or how to measure climate impacts. There is also a lot of variability in the definition of ESG, which makes it hard for investors. So therefore, Nuton needs to have clear and accurate reporting at a fund level and make sure they are following the correct frameworks and initiatives to avoid greenwashing. As an investment manager, if you invest in a company and you fail to disclose its ESG characteristics to your client, you are misleading the client, and this is really has a detrimental effect on the company and could make you lose clients. Additionally, obviously, they need to carry out an ESG analysis on the companies they invest in on behalf of clients, because ESG is now a key driver of business value, quoted by PwC in 2022. Regulators are on high alert for this kind of stuff about greenwashing. Recent case studies show that companies have been fined millions for undertaking the act, and it's especially in the UK, the regulatory fines cause losses to shareholders that are on average 10 times the size of the fine itself, found by Masters 2010. And if this did happen at Nuton, it would have such a negative effect on its clients. They would lose a lot of money. So it's really important that Nuton follows the initiatives. There are also industry debates about whether investing in fossil fuels or high-emitting companies hinders or furthers your sustainability efforts. For example, Nuton has made a decision to continue investing in high emitters to help them change, and continue investing in the emerging markets to help them change as well. But would this be seen as greenwashing? That's another challenge they face. And additionally, they have the challenge of internal greenwashing. So looking to, for example, to employees, like they're doing sustainable investment, but actually they're not sustainably upkeeping their own offices. So they're not using LED bulbs, they're not recycling properly, that kind of stuff that needs to be looked after as well. So what's Nuton actually doing at the moment? So firstly, it's supporting a lot of key codes and principles which provide a framework for the best practice when considering ESG issues. They do undertake ESG analysis for every company they invest in. They actively engage with companies, so meet up with them on a one-to-one basis to work out what they're doing. They also offer exclusions and screening, particularly for charity clients, so excluding things like tobacco stocks. Excluding things like tobacco stocks and alcohol. Moving on to sustainable business practices, this is in line with the triple bottom line theory. So the triple bottom line was first introduced by John Elkington in 1994, which is a business concept that posits firms should commit to measuring their social and environmental impact in addition to their financial performance, rather than solely focusing on generating profit, which can also be broken down into people, profits, and the planet. This model actually provides the basis for a sustainable business strategy, and it's actually very closely linked to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, which is baked actually into Nuton's sustainable investment strategies. It highly aligns what it's doing to the sustainable goals made by the United Nations, not only because they benefit society, but because they have a positive effect on the returns of Nuton's investments. This was supported by a recent publication from McKinsey & Co. Additionally, Additionally, the triple bottom line proposes that company has responsibilities to all stakeholders rather than just shareholders. For example, Post et al. 2002 noted that the capacity of a firm to generate sustainable wealth over time is determined by its relationship with critical stakeholders. Therefore, many companies are now reporting their results across the triple bottom line to create transparent, accurate, and reliable reports. This is actually something Newton has undertaken in its recent annual reports, which are submitted to Companies House. Like I said, just to be transparent, accurate, and reliable. However, triple bottom line reporting has been criticised for undermining systems thinking and the systems theory. So, found that among companies using triple bottom line, there is a lack of systems thinking within the triple bottom line approach, and so it fails to determine any intermediate cause-effect relations at levels above the bottom line. So here is a demonstration of how the triple bottom line approach could be applied to Newton Investment Management and then ultimately applied in its final annual reports at the end of the year. So firstly, from an economic standpoint, being an investment management firm, Newton makes a significant contribution to the economy of the regions that it operates within. With £88 billion worth of assets under management at the moment, Newton is channeling this into long-term investments in order to deliver returns for a huge range of clients. Given its client base, Newton obviously is also impacting real people in the world. So, for example, pensioners who are relying on their retirement savings to continue spending in the UK economy and live a good life, as well as charities who use the investments to grow and promote social justice. However, this client base has actually recently grown after merging with Mellon to expand its business to the US. Economic theories actually show that mergers result in the firm having increased market share, which helps the firm gain economies of scale and become more profitable. This ensures shareholder wealth is maximised and economic growth is secured. Moreover, the merger actually has enhanced business skill sets as well, and the research capabilities, so its ability to be able to deliver strong investment outcomes to clients and also meet net zero goals. From a social perspective, the employee code of conduct is important. Newton actually adheres to BNY Mellon's code of conduct, which provides a practical set of principles guiding business decisions, really just doing the right thing. All employees must certify an annual attestation program that they have read and understood the code. The key principles are respecting others, avoiding conflicts, working with governments, protecting company assets, and supporting our communities. The principles for ethical behaviour in day-to-day work are guided by integrity, so just doing what's right, no matter the impact on specific transactions or short-term relations. At the foundation of the code of conduct are the firm's values. So, given this, it could be said that in line with research from Trevino et al. 1999, Newton has organised its ethics programme in the values orientation manner. In comparison to the compliance orientation, studies show that values orientation in ethics programs help reduce unethical behaviour, encourage employees to report ethical problems, and also fosters employee commitment. However, Newton doesn't actually have its own code of conduct, as it follows BNY Mellon's, which is actually addressed by Robin Vince, the CEO of BNY Mellon Investment Management, rather than our own CEO, Ewan Monroe. Therefore, the code could seem impersonal and used as just a response to put pressures on CSR and as a marketing tool, and studies show that this type of behaviour actually can make people not adhere to the code. Additionally, Newton clearly promotes social justice through its commitment to preventing acts of modern slavery and human trafficking from occurring within both the business and its supply chains, and it signs an annual transparency statement to show its commitment. Newton actually has a lot of also diversity and inclusion practices, so they believe that creating a diverse, equitable and inclusive workforce leads to better outcomes for clients, staff and businesses. Hence, the business is much more sustainable for the future. Newton believes that everyone should have the right to equal access to employment, supporting social justice across the globe. This has been evident through a number of DEI activities, through its hiring practices, for example, hiring through 100 Black interns, and also hiring a lot of school leavers from London state schools for the vocational trainee scheme. Further to this also helps the economy, like, for example, according to the Centre of Economics and Business Research, apprenticeships actually contributed £34 million to the UK economy in 2014. And with this trend obviously likely to increase, it's actually predicted the economy will gain £50 billion by 2025 and £103 billion by 2050, increasing economic prosperity through vocational training schemes and apprenticeships like this, who are more likely to be in employment and have higher earnings in the end. From an environmental perspective, Newton's board, so its shareholders and executive management, believe that the integration of ESG really does matter to its investment practice and is crucial to the success of its business and its clients. Therefore, it's clear that shareholders have an influence on sustainable investment at Newton. Research by Jess Desjardins et al. 2022 shows this benefits all stakeholders, especially employees. SRI funds such as Newton's SRI Fund for UK charities helps charities reduce their negative environmental impacts. However, this is nothing new for Newton, as they've been carrying out responsible investment since 1998. And since climate change possesses a serious threat to client portfolios, Newton has actually more recently become more committed to addressing climate change. This is actively shown through their reporting, which is now in line with the Task Force for Climate-Related Financial Disclosures. Additionally, Newton also joined the Net Zero Asset Managers Initiative in 2021 and submitted net zero targets for 2050. With this in mind, Newton has aligned itself to the Science Based Targets Initiative to ensure the companies it invests in have a scientifically sound transition plan to net zero. A YouGov survey found 52% of executives stated that their commitment to the science-based targets has boosted their investor confidence in their business. In order to reach its targets, Newton utilises its multidimensional research platform and to carry out an ESG analysis. Sustainable investing in this way reinforces both inclusion and economic growth. According to a McKinsey & Co report, sustainable investing helps move the energy transition, which in turn lowers costs to make energy more accessible and productive to more people across the world, whilst increasing economic growth through GDP. Given the investment decisions Newton's making on behalf of its clients so it can meet its net zero ambitions by 2050, they've also reduced their own Scope 3 emissions by 22% in the last year. And also, Newton does demonstrate, after everything I've spoken about here, it's clear that Newton demonstrates ethical consumption, which has been defined by Culleberg 2013 as the socially conscious consumer behaviour focused on social goals and reducing environmental damage. As I come to an end now, I just wanted to say that as a conclusion, it's very, very clear that Newton is on high alert to carry out sustainable business practices in relation to climate change, social justice, and economic prosperity. Newton's ability to be ethically conscious when it comes to its values-orientated code of conduct, responsible investing, and its huge ambition to help the world reach net zero by 2050 are just some aspects of its sustainable business practices and its strategy. Along with its diversity and inclusion goals, so initiatives such as the hiring practices that I've mentioned, and being able to have a modern slavery act and help people in the business and really care about individuals as well, shows that Newton is a corporate socially responsible company. And in fact, Milton Friedman actually stated that an entity's greatest responsibility lies in the satisfaction of shareholders, which he proposed actually as a theory for business ethics. However, it's clear that this isn't the approach Newton takes, and in fact, it does follow the triple bottom line approach and includes all stakeholders along the way, to ensure that it is doing what is right for a sustainable future. Thank you for listening.